hello there.
Hey!
Happy Sunday, friends, lovers. Thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir and Amy Nasir. And we're glad you are here. I see in the chat, things have already taken off. I see Jeff in the chat. I see Bonnie in the chat. Some of my favorite people to see in the chat. Join us.
Yay!
Come to us. Come and join the fun. We are on YouTube and Facebook Live. And give us those likes. I'm asking you right at the beginning here, if you like the show, give us some likes. We're working on getting those numbers up. And today is Sunday, May 22nd, 2022, the first show in a post-pandemic world. Or at least post-COVID Amy in the post-pandemic world.
I'm officially COVID negative twice, so
Twice.
I know I do not have the Rona anymore. It has left the building.
Now, if anybody missed the last couple of shows or anything we've done over the last 2 weeks, yeah, Amy got hit. She got it. And every day...
I got it without anybody else around me getting it. We were hanging out with, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, more than 10 people, that we knew over that weekend. And nobody else got it except me. Because I'm special.
Best guess was Closed Confined Space, a presentation of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, local community theater, real fun production. Except that was the most likely spot to be in a room, a smallish room with people. But that was on a Friday. The next day, what happens? We go to visit friends out of town, drive all the way out to East Lansing, if you know where that is from Motown. Then we drive to a beach party. The Ann Arbor Lantern Festival, and we're on a beach with thousands of people. Could it have happened there? Open air, probably not. Sunday...
I probably got it in the porta potty.
That's a thought. But Sunday we're out and about, then Sunday we do a show, and then Monday it's like something's wrong. And I think maybe Tuesday, try the test. We tested before. We've done these at home. You know what they look like. Yeah. You're like, okay, fine, we're not pregnant.
Get the booger on the swab, booger on the swab, booger on the swab.
Yeah. Anyway, so we test, and the line is there, and it's like, the line's never there. But the line was there. Next day, the line was there. Next day, the line was... Now, what was strange about it was, I tested too. If Amy's going to test, and every time, I don't get no line. No line for Robert. So, long story short is, yes, this has been almost 2 weeks, really 1 week of the bad corona, and then some follow-on infections, more bacterial Z-Pack kind of stuff. I never got it. I never got hit. How contagious can it be? Trust me, I was in close proximity to the infected person, and yeah, I never got it. So, it's finally, this show is post-COVID Amy in a post-pandemic world. And we are glad you are here. I see the chat is taken off, which is good. My favorite part of the show is keeping track of what everybody is saying back. But today is Sunday, May 22nd, the 142nd, we're 142 days in, 142nd day of 2022. There are 223 days left. 223 left to make 2022 your best year yet. That's what I'm working on. I know some of you... I hope all of you are working on this with me as well. We're going to talk about some of the things I've been doing, Amy's been doing, we've been doing, you've been doing to make that happen. There are 217 days left until Christmas, because I know everybody is super forward-thinking and you've already started on your Christmas shopping. Yeah, right. But I like mentioning how many days till Christmas, not just for anticipation, and it's a little quirky and that makes it fun, but also I always remind myself to keep that Christmas spirit. It's fun. Maybe my favorite Christmas story is not a Christmas story. Although we recently watched Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Yeah,
and I'm like, where have I seen this actor from? Well, it turns out he's the father in A Christmas Story, if you like that movie, and a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Strangest thing, but I love it.
Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
So great. Thanks to Jennifer for that recommendation.
Jennifer turned us on to that very strange television series.
From 1973, 74, 75. Yeah.
And we've watched all of them, because it only got one season and never got renewed.
We still need to watch the 2 movies associated with it.
Oh, my sweet Lord. Well... But rather, my favorite Christmas story, maybe, is A Christmas Carol. Especially the George C. Scott production from the 1980s. But either way, I do try to keep Christmas in my heart throughout the year, and, we're not talking about a religious Christmas, we're talking about goodwill toward men, that good spirit, that not self-sacrificial spirit, but just benevolence and the love. I feel the love in the chat. Thank you for that. 217 days until Christmas. 40 days. 40 days. What is it? Oh, 40 days and 40 nights. The Great Flood, 40 days and 40 nights it rained, and that still wouldn't have covered the earth in that much water. But believe what you will. 40 days until Okan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we just went to Ayn Rand Con, so this is sort of a second coming. Okan 2022, Washington, D.C. Hope we're going to see lots of you there. Either way, we will be reporting back and sharing those experiences with you. And also on this date, England's War of the Roses began. Now, I never knew what the War of the Roses was. I'd heard of the film, The Name of the Rose. People have told me I should see that. So I had to look it up, because this is the day it began. The opening battle of England's War of the Roses. The Yorkists defeated King Henry VI's Lancastrian forces at St. Albans, 20 miles northwest of London.
Lancastrian forces.
Yes. Well, you hear these names, York and Lancaster, and then eventually you find out there were actual stories. Many Lancastrian nobles perished, including Edmund Beaufort, the Duke of Somerset, and the king was forced to submit to the rule of his cousin, Richard of York. The dynastic struggle between the House of York, whose badge was a white rose, and the House of Lancaster, later associated with a red rose, a wed rose.
How romantic.
Would stretch on for 30 years. See, that's the War of the Roses was the rose with the symbol, white rose, red rose of each house. Both families, closely related, claimed the throne through descent from the sons of Edward III, the King of England, from 1327 to 1377. Yet one reason not to have the leadership of your country be by some family that automatically rules the country.
Yeah,
because what if there's ever a dispute?
Not the best model of society.
Well, not only can there be a dispute about the lineage, but there can be a question about lineage, about, say, who was really the father of a given person.
Oh, are you segueing into something that we know about?
I am. So we recently visited London, and we got a bit of England fever. We really got into England. We visited Windsor Castle. We visited Royal Albert Hall.
I know you're going to hate me when I say this, but it was like visiting the States, but everybody had like a little different accent, and everyone was a little smarter.
Nobody's going to hate you for that, except everybody in England, a few people in the South.
Well, there are a lot of people who were much, they were much more brighter and smarter and a little bit more together, and I really enjoyed that. God, it was so refreshing.
It's the accent. They're not smarter, it's the accent. Trust me, it's just the accent.
Well, it's like going to New York. It's sort of like going to New York, and everyone's, really, 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 really fast and really like just throwing it at you, and they're on the go because they're really busy and they're got to get to the next thing, and they're going to help you, and they're going to be really, really nice, but they're not going to waste your time or their time. But it wasn't that fast in London.
It was just smarter.
It was smarter.
Okay. I will accept that. I don't know if I'll agree with it, but I'll accept it. But we did enjoy the London experience, and despite ourselves being completely disassociated from all ideas of monarchy and aristocracy.
Yeah.
See, last night we went out because it's post-COVID Amy in a post-pandemic world.
That's right.
So we went out.
I have my freedom.
We went out in public. The things we've done since you've had multiple negative tests. But one thing we did is we went out to the movies last night and we saw Downton Abbey.
Very
Downton
funny.
Abbey.
Tornado Alley.
Yes, Downton Abbey, a new era. And it was a great fun. I haven't watched any of the television shows, so it was just a standalone movie to me. But it held up pretty well just as a movie.
I'm happy to hear you say that, Robert, because I know I saw some reviews of the movie, and some people are saying, well, if you don't know anything about what goes on between the characters, then you will be totally lost, and I'm really happy that you were not totally lost and that you enjoyed it.
It was good. They didn't give a lot of explanation, But that was good because there were enough subplots and little plots. You didn't want that. It would have been a 4-hour movie if they did. They gave just enough that you could accept it and follow along and have fun with it.
And let me tell you this. I mean, for those who know Downton Abbey and have watched all 6 seasons like I have and the other film that was out, you'll know that the character arc the characterization is so exemplary. Julian Fellowes, the writer, is so good at weaving everything together and really making you care about the characters, giving them some real moral substance and some real challenges and conflicts to face. So in a way, it's like even though most of the characters are adults that they pay attention to anyway, there's children that are kind of behind the walls. You don't see them. But the adults have it's almost like a coming of age story for them. You know, they may just be going in from their 30s into their 50s or something, and it's a total coming of age story, which is lovely to see, the kind of growth that you would want to see in an adult to become more of a good person, more of a moral person, more of a considerate and understanding and thoughtful person. And I'll tell you, this movie catches everybody at their very best, where everyone is very much fulfilled in their lives, or at least to some extent that they are. They can keep growing a little bit more, and they do, but it's such a payoff, and it's so lovely to see everybody just being such good people, and the things that happen are just delightful. I mean, there are some, conflicts involved in the story, which I will not give away. But it was, and I tell you, if you go see it, I was crying like throughout the second half of it.
In a good way.
In a good way. It was like being at a wedding, like multiple weddings at once.
And maybe a funeral.
But
we won't give any spoilers.
It was just so beautiful to see people have a payoff in life, and to see that growth really pay off and really bring out the best in them and other people around them, because it was such a value fest is what it was. And now granted, Downton Abbey is a bit of a melodrama, almost soap opera, but it's not, I wouldn't call it a soap opera because the writing and the acting is just way too stellar for that kind of thing. But it is a melodrama, so it may not be your cup of tea.
Cup of tea.
Ha ha ha. But it really is lovely, and I do highly recommend it. So it's just like being, I don't know, it's comfort food is what it is. But I'm really happy to hear that you enjoyed that.
Thank you.
And now I do have more to say about Downton Abbey in a minute when you mention something else, but go ahead.
No, it's okay, because I happened to look at the chat, and it turns out our producer. Okay, we don't have a producer on Sundays. This is totally, us. But on our Thursday show, Life on Earth, which I'll mention again later, our producer for that show, the gentleman behind the scenes who handles all the technical stuff, is in the chat. How cool is it to see Daniel in the chat live? Most excellent. And he says, that's easy. Bigger stick diplomacy is how you solve such conflicts. Speaking as we were about monarchy and aristocracy, but also, now where did it go there? Ian is in the chat and mentions that he is going to Ocon. He's flying to DC 5 days early to do tourist stuff. Very cool. When we went to London,
cool.
we mixed it up. Definitely better if you can take an extra 5 days and do the city first. That's excellent. But I mentioned that because he also asks, have you seen The Gilded Age yet? And I'm glad you asked, because we mentioned it a couple weeks ago. We did see it. We very much enjoyed it. Extremely well done, despite the title, The Gilded Age. And, people talk about the Gilded Age in a cynical way in connection with the robber barons. The robber baron in the Gilded Age was actually very admirable. And even when he did Robin Bearer type stuff, where, he would destroy somebody completely, it was only because that person had done him wrong, had tried to destroy him. So he would respond to such things in a very extreme way. But no, in general, no, the family, the main family of the show, they were admirable.
Yes.
There was too much of them wanting to enter high society, and they were willing to do anything in order to make that happen. You certainly admire the husband more than the wife in that regard. But I enjoyed the show. I thought it was extremely well done.
I really liked it.
And yeah,
Really
I was definitely on the lookout for the kind of Robin Bearer type of stories. But no, it was really good. So thank you for asking about that, Ian.
Yeah.
And Stephen asked, what do you think of the Little Rascals? I haven't seen them since I was a kid. I don't know what I think of them.
I liked Buckwheat and Alfalfa.
I vaguely remember they were very charming.
And
but that's all I remember.
Who's that little roly-poly kid? And I love the fact that and their dog was actually a pit bull. And at that time, pit bulls were known to be good with children, or at least so they say. But
now Linda is in the chat.
Hi, Linda.
I know you want to get back to Downton Abbey.
Yes.
So naturally, a question from the art goddess, the doyenne behind all things at Quent Cordair Fine Art, Cordair.com, asks the question: who are your favorite Downton Abbey characters?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I love Daisy. I love the fact that she got married, and I honestly got to say that
Now Daisy is downstairs. If you don't know the story,
she's downstairs, not upstairs.
Yes, she's one of the servants, not one of the aristocracy.
My favorite upstairs is Mary, and Mary. Oh my God, she is a steel beam in the best way, and she is so good. And she, of course, she had an arc. She had ups and downs. She had lessons to learn, a lot of coming of age. But I really like her. I like just about everything about her.
Yes, Jim Ashley pointed out she was played by Elizabeth McGovern in some of the films that she had done. It's funny, I only remember her from the 80s because I think I had a big crush on her at the time. But as a mature actress, she's actually much more statuesque than she was then. She's has a great presence about her.
Yeah, and other than that, I mean, unfortunately, you probably know, if you know Downton Abbey, that Mary actually had a first husband who sadly passed away after, I think, the first season or something like that. And I really liked him in that role. His character name, I believe, was Matthew. I forget the actor's name, but he was really good.
Well, you gotta get an option on these actors when you get them in the show.
Yeah.
So they can't just leave after one season.
More than that. But yeah, can't say anything more than that. But I mean, other than that, I mean, I really love Cora, the wife of is Mary's mother, who is an American. I think she is truly gracious. And I mean, all throughout the seasons, she is a rock. She doesn't change. She is just delightful and accepting and just really loving, and very creative. And she's an excellent problem solver, and I really do like her. And of course, then there's. I should say there is a downstairs character named Barrow, and if you don't know his story, you should go out and find his story or watch the entire 6 seasons because his story is really amazing.
If you don't know the character, and I didn't, again, I've never seen the show, but you get up to speed by watching the film. If you don't know the character, and I guess he has a long and very interesting character arc, that arc is resolved in this film in a way which even somebody like me who knows nothing found very charming.
Yeah. Oh, it is so good. There were so many happy tears. I'm getting chilled right now just thinking of it.
Well, let me do this. I'm going to jump back to my show intro so that we're not here all night. Although this is fun. We could do this all night.
Okay.
We could go all night. But first, real quick, while we're talking about classic TV, classic films, it is the birthday of Sir Laurence Olivier. And I have not seen a lot of Sir Laurence Olivier films. So if you have a favorite by Laurence Olivier, or any film that he was in, for example, I haven't seen Spartacus yet, and that's on my to-do list, and I know he's in that film, although not the star. let me know if whatever I should see by Sir Laurence Olivier. He was born on this date, 1907, passed away in 89, so he lived to be 82, and had a stellar career both on film and on stage. The other birthday for today, somebody who is still with us, is Stephen Patrick Morrissey, which, of course, most people just know as Morrissey. So,
Okay.
Amy, you have to tell me, because I don't know much about the Smiths or Morrissey's solo career. I
All
know,
right.
How Soon Is Now, obviously. And
Yeah.
love how that
Well-
song is used in the film The Wedding Singer. But what are your
I can't
favorite?
help but before I go into my favorite Smith songs,
Yes.
I have to tell you, and it didn't occur to me until just tonight, so this is totally new,
Okay.
is after watching, all 6 seasons and 2 movies of Downton Abbey, I really think that Julian Fellows kind of, lifted some content from the Smiths' lyric writing and
Really?
themes. Yes.
She's the screenwriter, right?
Yes, he is the screenwriter,
He is.
Julian. Yeah. And so,
From the lyrics of songs by the Smiths.
or maybe Julian Fellows and Stephen Morrissey, along with Johnny Marr and the people in the Smiths, had similar experiences. Of course, they're all British. It's a very, very British band, the
Yeah.
Smiths.
Now to explain to folks, there's a British band called, some of you will know this, but some of you won't. There's a British band called the Smiths. The lead singer is a singer named Morrissey.
Yeah.
Goes by mononym Morrissey. Their guitar player was Johnny Marr, who, if you're a guitar player, was a famous,
Yeah.
talented guitar player. Now you're saying there were things in the lyrics of songs by the Smiths.
Going through, okay, so I went to like the essentials in the playlist on Apple Music. Okay, that's what I'm looking at here.
What about that led you to think there were connections
I'll
here?
just say that there's a lot of connections with Barrow.
With that character.
So many. Like, Barrow is walking out of the Smiths universe.
Now, it has to be said that Morrissey, Stephen Patrick Morrissey, is a gay man.
Yeah, he's gay.
And he's as gay as you could want anyone to ever be.
He was so gay in the 80s. He first of all, he was closeted like a lot of people unfortunately were. But he just, some of his themes is that he has a self-loathing because of his situation and because of his sexuality. It took him a long time for him to actually decide to be happy about his situation, and of course that was contingent on certain things in society and certain ideas.
But if you know the music of the Smiths,
Yeah.
he wasn't closeted at all. I mean, he was, but nobody was surprised when he came out.
Yeah. So I mean, if you listen to lyrics of the Smiths, I mean, you'll know that these are the themes that are going on, of the problems and the trials and tribulations
Yes.
of being gay in the 80s or in the 70s or in the 60s, however, or in the 90s even. My favorite songs are "This Charming Man," where I believe this is where they sing about meeting a charming man,
A charming idea.
A charming idea. "There Is a Light That Never Goes Out" is okay, and I'll tell you this. The kinds of emotional themes that are in Downton Abbey are very similar to this song in a way. It's just very heartfelt in a way that is, you have teenagers in trouble. They want to get away from their dysfunctional family or their dysfunctional neighborhood or their dysfunctional city or their country. I mean, just the whole society. They want to get away from it. And anyway, I'll just leave it at that for that. There Is a Light That Never Goes Out. There's they're very poignant and sad and melodramatic songs like "Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now," which it's a cathartic song is really what it is.
Well, and you have to hear a couple of these because it's a very affecting style.
Yeah.
It's not just as depressing as the song titles would suggest. It's an interesting presentation of it.
Right. It's melodramatic. And there's another one that's a little more upbeat. "William, It Was Really Nothing." Great song. Fun song to listen to, I'll say that.
And with a song title like that, how could there be any question of his sexuality?
Right. It's just, yeah, there's Stop Me If You Think That You've Heard This One Before, which is a song title, which when you say it, people will say, okay, well, what is it?
Yes.
The song is called Stop Me If You
There is an
Think
irony
You've
in there.
Heard This One Before. There's That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, which kind of brings you back to the 80s, you know, of the kind of social upheaval and the threat of nuclear war in the 80s. If anybody remembers that, that'll bring you back to that. Last Night I Dreamt That Somebody Loved Me. Oh, very affecting song. But my favorite song is a more upbeat song called Sheila Take a Bow. And the lyrics go, Sheila, take a bow, boot the grime of this world in the crotch, dear. And don't go home tonight. Come out and find the one that you love and who loves you. I love this. I mean, in my eyes, Morrissey can do no wrong after writing those lyrics. So, very good stuff. So there you are, a little intro to the Smiths if you've never heard them before, or maybe a reminder. But really interesting music, unlike anything else. Yeah.
Very good. It is also happy. Now, we talked about national holidays, and some of these seem kind of made up. This one has got to be completely made up. And so you might wonder, why do I even cover it? But it is National Buy a Musical Instrument Day.
Yay!
Now, you know I can't resist celebrating National Buy a Musical Instrument Day. I haven't bought one today, but I have dug some out that I haven't used in a while. And there's even a video on Facebook and Twitter of me at the park screwing around with an old $25 toy guitar and a $5 pair of drumsticks, just to make the point that you don't have to spend $1,000, although you probably should, on a beautiful guitar just to make music on Buy a Musical Instrument Day. But you've done this for me before, and I want you to do it again. For your own sake, no sacrifice required, but I would love to see you, and you know who you are because I'm talking to everybody except that one guy, but I would love to see you record a video of you playing an instrument and put it up on your socials, whichever you use, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you put it on if you put it on TikTok, you'll probably have to send a link to Twitter or Facebook for me to see it, or send it to me directly. But I would love to see.
That was a complicated word that you just said just about correctly.
What word did I say just about correctly?
It's just, you'll have to go back and listen to this again.
I have to go back and listen to my own show.
Because you just said a real tongue twister, and if you try to recreate it, you probably might not be able to do it.
Oh. Well, somebody will probably put it in the chat. Oh, well, you said this wrong. And I, of course, will appreciate that. If only we had, like, a corrector available to point these things out to us. Apollo Zoo says, buy a Steinway piano today, if you're as rich as Yarn Brook. You know, if I was bringing in $600 a show like Yarn, I'm not going to complain about money. We do have a Patreon. Our patrons are very generous. Of course, more of you could be patrons. You are welcome to do that at robertnasir.com. You'll find links to our Patreon and PayPal for one-time contributions as well. But thank you for pointing that out, Apollo Zeus, that we don't make nearly as much money as Dr. Brooke does. You wait. You just wait, and someday we still won't be making as much money as Yarn Brook, but we'll be closer. It will be a good thing. So I hope you're celebrating National Buy a Musical Instrument Day. You don't have to go out and buy a musical instrument. You've probably already got one. I did it with a pair of drumsticks and a paper bag as a set of drums, so you can do that too.
Paper bag?
A paper bag. You didn't see that video?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it was the paper bag from our carryout from Carrabba's.
Oh.
And I used that because it was handy. So all good fun. So go out there, drop some cash and make some noise, or don't drop any cash, but post a video. Even if you don't go out and buy an instrument, just use one you've already got, or just sing, whatever you can do. And finally, what are we listening to this week?
I listened to another episode of the podcast of Away with Words.
Away with Words.
Which is basically a an etymology podcast, I guess. But people call in, and it's really folksy and very sweet and charming. And this lady mentioned that she grew up in Michigan. She now lives in Texas. But she got from her mother the phrase, cool beans.
Cool beans, man.
And honestly, I think they were a little stumped about where this all came from. There was some sort of thing from 1981 of some class of 1981 calling themselves the Cool Beans, or Cool Beans 1981, high school class, graduation,
So that actually had an origin.
But
Wow.
we don't know if that's the actual origin or not.
Oh, okay.
Now, there is some talk about the sitcom Full House. But that wasn't until 1987 where people are saying, well, some of the characters in that sitcom said cool beans. So it goes back to 81, maybe even further. Somebody in Michigan probably made this up. Maybe it was Canada. I don't know. If our Canadian friends, let us know if you've heard that phrase, cool beans, which means, oh, that's great, cool beans. Or, that sounds wonderful, cool beans.
All right. So if you like etymology and word origins and language, then this may be the podcast for you. A Way with Words.
Yes.
Yes. Versus an entomology podcast, because that would really bug me.
Or epidemiology podcast.
Well, we'll get to that, because, we need to talk about that. Besides that, of course, we're going to mention that on Thursday, we actually did an episode of Life on Earth called Productiveness, Vacations, Roark, and Wynand. Well, some of you will remember we've talked about that on this show 5 minutes before as well. This was essentially an extension of that episode. It was great fun. Link is in the show notes. Again, Productiveness, Vacations, Roark, and Wynand. Because there's the question, if you really believe in productiveness, shouldn't you be working all the time? Why the hell are you taking any time off at all? What are you, French? But no. There's an integration to be found here, a balance, a way of hierarchy of valuesing it. We had fun with that one. You should give it a watch. Also, on our Friday show, James Valliant's Leonard Peikoff's essays, we're switching gears. We did an episode called Peikoff's Keeping It Real, Introduction and Overview. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through Leonard Peikoff's book, Keeping It Real, which is his podcast. Questions taken from his podcast, reprinted in book form. They basically took all the best stuff, everything that would be good in a book, and put it in a book. We're going to go through that. That one's going to take weeks. We had so much fun on Friday with that, and these are going to be fun episodes because it's just applied wisdom, applied philosophy, applied objectivism. So link to that one is in the show notes as well. And again, Amy's over COVID, so we went out and saw Downton Abbey, if that counts as part of what have we been listening to this week. That really was a good night.
Yeah, that was so good.
A good film. It was either that or it was going to be Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, which I haven't seen yet, but I need to see.
Yeah.
I might not even be saying that right. It's an interesting title.
It's the Everything movie,
Yeah.
But we don't want to know anything about that, so no spoilers in the
And
comments,
speaking of
please.
multiverses, I also need to see the second Doctor Strange movie. I'll probably go see that with my daughter.
Yeah, I'm not going to go see it.
Not
because
really
I'm-
Amy's thing.
Yeah.
But I've gotten recommendations that it is worth seeing. If you have an opinion about that, please feel free to enter it in the chat if you have opinions about either one of the films. Now, for the technical side, you should listen to an expert, not us, about COVID. So I have linked to a paper by Amesh Adalja and recent news from Dr. Adalja. He does so many appearances. And on one, he said specifically, quote, "The goals with COVID-19 in 2022 really should be about making sure we're preventing severe disease." And the news report went on to say, Adalja said this means shifting the focus from the number of cases and transmission to the number of hospitalizations. And they quote him again, "It's going to be hard because the general public has sort of been attuned to this abstinence-only approach where any case becomes a 5-alarm fire. And that's not going to be the case any longer," unquote. Now,
It's true.
that makes perfect sense to me because Amesh was saying, as early last year,
Yeah.
that this is never going away.
Right.
50 years from now, they may
Embrace
find
the
a cure.
Rona.
But the point is, it's going to go from being a pandemic, where, for example, early on, we had no idea what to do with this, and people were dropping like flies, to now, when we have all sorts of not just treatment regimens, but also antivirals and other medications. And it's rare that anybody dies of this, but we've lost 1 million people. It was serious. It's still serious, but the transition we're looking for is from a pandemic to an endemic disease, like flu or colds or other things that we can't get rid of, but we know what to do about them.
Right.
And we have good regimens, we have good medications, we have remediations. We know not to put people on ventilators unless absolutely necessary. And that's where we're at. And that's why I say this is post-COVID Amy in a post-pandemic. The pandemic's over. And it's not that COVID isn't still serious. It's not that it's not still there. It's not that there aren't still things you should do in that regard. But, sorry, you may hear some background noise there. There's a motorcycle just outside the studio.
Our neighbor likes his motorcycle, and he likes to keep it running for at least a half an hour before he drives it.
It's the strangest thing. I don't know if any of you own a motorcycle. Do you start your motorcycle and then sit on it for 30 minutes before you actually take off and go somewhere?
We got to make sure everything's up to speed on it and make sure everything's running correctly.
I guess if you drive it while the engine's cold, then you run the risk of not annoying your neighbors enough. So
anyway, if you can hear it, you might not be able to. So, okay.
We'll hear in the chat, I'm sure. Yeah, Ian says he's warming up the seat.
Apollo says it's Hell's Angels. I don't think so.
Some days it is hell that he's just out there for half an hour talking to somebody. So it's, the cool factor of he's sitting on a motorcycle chatting with a friend. I get it. I understand that, except it's a hog. It's one of these really loud... Anyway. I can't complain about the neighbors on our show. You don't want to hear that. What you really want to hear...
Get off our lawn!
What you really want to hear is that the end of COVID is now risk management. Decide your risk tolerance and act accordingly. Be diligent and stop worrying. Take it seriously.
Yeah.
But stop worrying. And this has been good advice all along.
I should say that I've had the flu before. I've had rhinoviruses before. I've had all that. Mm-hmm. I've had strep throat. I've had all that. This was not, and again, I am vaccinated and boosted, blah,
Triple
blah, blah.
vaccinated.
And this was not like those, quite. And I'll say, I don't want to get into all the gory details, but, as a lady... But
it sounds like you're going to.
With lady, the lady package of physical being, right? It can present funny things in ways that ladies can experience. Funny things that make you laugh, right? No, I'm kidding. So anyway, I'll just say that. Hint, hint. If you want to know more, put that in the chat, and I'll let you know. But yeah, it was basically what it was is that it lowered my immune system and. Things were attacking me that are kind of strange, but it did happen. So, and I'm over it. I'm fine now. It ended up going into a bacterial infection, which then I took antibiotics for, and I was miserable with that for a week. So fun! It's so fun. Yes. So now that it's over, it's really fun.
So my takeaway point, my takeaway message, my takeaway is summer's here and the time is right for dancing in the street.
When cars are there?
I don't know. I have to ask Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. But, we're in Motown. We broadcast this show from the Motor City. And summer's here, and the time is right for dancing in the street. We're 1 month, less than a month now, away from summer. And I think we're exactly a month away from, what is it, the 21st, 22nd? It's time to get out there. Some of you already have. We're going to do that now. Get out there and do stuff. And show us what you got. Get out there and sing. Bring those videos in. Again, if you were on Twitter or Facebook, you saw I'm singing Dancing in the Street in the middle of the park. And that's what I want you to do. The post-it note for the week in that regard says, morning comes, whether you set the alarm or not. This is from Ursula K. Le Guin. I didn't write this one.
Can morning come at noon?
Well, morning comes. Morning comes. Not the time you wake up. Not the time you do your morning routine. But the morning comes whether you set your alarm or not. So no, the morning does not come at noon. I guess you could argue the morning could come at 11:59. That's still morning.
Good morning.
Now here's a question for you. When does the morning come? It seems like the morning comes at 6 a.m., but 5 in the morning?
Yeah,
okay,
some people
4
get up
in
at
the
5.
morning. But is 3 in the morning really morning?
No.
Is
Not
2
unless you're a farmer.
Wow. Tell us in the chat what time, because somebody will know the answer to this.
Yeah.
In
By the way,
some regard, there's got to be some specification for when morning arrives.
yeah.
It can't possibly be 12:01 in the morning. Although that kind of sounds right. Now I'm wondering. In any event, I can see there's good stuff going on in the chat. But yes, morning comes whether you set the alarm or not. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I have been waking up every morning, only weekdays. Although it happened this morning again, too, without even trying. On weekdays, I am waking up every morning before 6 a.m. and posting that on Twitter using the Amazon Alexa device, Echo device. I shouldn't have said that word. Now she's going to talk to us. Using the Amazon Echo device in order to let folks know, here's when I woke up. I don't know if it's possible to fool the time on that, to cheat. So it's a good way for folks to know, oh yeah, Robert really did get up when he said he was going to. And I am following a whole morning routine, and I've encouraged y'all, if you don't have a morning routine, pick one up. So for example, my morning routine involves planning the day, reviewing my schedule from the previous day, planning the next day, doing my affirmations, and I always post at least one of those on Twitter with my wake-up times, something to get you charged up for the day, remind you of something that you already know. Do visualization, which again is a preview or a dress rehearsal in your head of what your day is going to look like. And then my morning exercise. And exercise regimen is, the usual, do your arms or do your legs or do your core. And my only rule for it is break a sweat every day. Got to break a sweat every day. And then writing. Write anything, but write something. And that has been my morning routine. So again, morning comes whether you set the alarm or not.
Yeah, so people here are saying, let's see, 12:01 a.m. It's according to Linda Cordier, Cordier.com. Jim says there is a quote, maybe by Thoreau, that day dawns to which you are awake.
It's good. I've got a couple of Thoreau quotes that I've got a list of some quotes to use if one doesn't come to mind, and that is on my list of quotes to use. Thoreau, as hippy-dippy as he was also a lot like me. I mean, I find so much of what he says resonates with me, so lots of Thoreau quotes.
Yeah, Bonnie says it's getting light at 5:30 a.m. here in California. Oh, very nice. And Apollo says 4 to 6 a.m.
4 to 6.
Depending on the season. That
it really does feel like
really,
anything before 4 a.m. is kind of the night before.
It is the night. And because you don't even hear birds. I guess when the birds start singing, maybe. That's what I would say. That's when morning comes. And
it's much more likely that I might be up in the morning. It wouldn't be before 4 o'clock, but I might be up at 3 or 4 in the morning from the night before. So
yeah.
it's 3 o'clock is still kind of the night before.
Well, there was
I get
like
it, though. 12:01 really is the morning, but...
It's like glow meetings going to 5 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah, so, again, if you don't have a morning routine, I encourage you to create one, even if you don't think you are a set regimen kind of morning riser. Now, this is me. This is me when I first returned to this idea of a morning routine and thought, I'm not that kind of guy. I get up when it's, my body tells me to get up, and, I kind of do the things that I've already decided to do, but without making a list. And if you are not a set regimen kind of morning riser, you may be surprised that you can do this. You may be surprised what a well-planned morning looks like. So I would encourage you to give it a shot. I certainly have been surprised, but it has been extremely valuable for me. I also have another Post-it note here from this week. So if the first one, the Ursula K. Le Guin quote, didn't work for you, my other one says, learn to take orders. Your own. And I posted this earlier. In fact, I think I may have posted this on Substack. I did a Substack post this week. If you haven't seen it yet, you absolutely should. It relates to conversations that we've already had. If you've seen my Facebook post entitled, Everything is Enough, on the source of meaning and purpose. If you are not subscribed to my Substack, I really, really need you to do that because I got to get those numbers up. And you can help me do that. I will owe you whatever it is I will owe you. My eternal gratitude, that's for one. And we'll see whatever else I can do you. If you have a Substack, of course, I can do a reciprocal share and help you out as well, unless you're doing something I absolutely don't agree with, which would not happen with anybody in this audience. Who would be listening to us this long if you were not kindred spirits? So
True.
If you go to robertnaser.substack.com or just do a Google search for Robert Nasir Substack, you will find it. And the most recent post is entitled, Everything is Enough, on the source of meaning. We've had that conversation before. You'll recognize some of that in the post. It's an important one to me. It means a lot to both my planning, organizing, and purposeful behavior, but also my peace of mind. So
one thing before we go is that I just want to thank John in on Facebook here. He says that he Googled cool beans. Now, okay, I am really surprised that the Away with Words podcast did not talk about this. And maybe it's kind of a family show. So, people don't...
Did you find something that isn't family-oriented?
It's true. Yes.
So, or orientated, as some people say.
So John Googled cool beans. Originated in the 1970s with the comedy duo Cheech and Chong.
Wow.
And I looked this up a little bit more, and so there's a question here on another page. Is cool beans a drug reference? And they say yes, probably. Sometimes they call them, I know some of these quaaludes and amphetamines and barbiturates, known as uppers and downers, were referred to as cool beans because they
resembled jelly beans.
Or they call them wacky beans. I don't know. Maybe it is a Cheech and Chong. I'm sure it is a Cheech and Chong reference.
I don't know. I guess maybe.
Yeah,
I can imagine it. It's just kind of. It's believable, but only just believable.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit...
Okay with that. It's cool.
No, it's fine. It's just...
and we've talked before. We're not prudes in that regard. We've had our experiences.
It's not as adorable and delightful and cute and wholesome as I was going for, but oh well.
Well, we've said before, the Amy version of things tends to be better anyway.
Now I look back and they were talking about how cool beans was referred to in a class of 1981 graduation in high school. They probably got it from Cheech and Chong or some other drug reference culture from the 60s. Yeah, okay.
Probably. Now, I've said before, one of my favorite songs by Roxy Music, that 1970s, early 80s art rock band, is The Thrill of It All. From the album Country Life. What I didn't know is The Thrill of It All steals a line from a Dorothy Parker poem, a rather morbid and macabre poem called Resume. See if you can tell what the theme of this poem is. Razors pain you. Rivers are damp. Acids stain you. And drugs cause cramp. Guns aren't lawful. Nooses give. Gas smells awful. You might as well live.
What is a risk-embracing perspective or something?
No, it's about methods of suicide.
Oh.
Razors pain you, rivers are damp, acids stain you, and drugs cause cramp.
That's...
Guns aren't lawful, nooses give. gas smells awful, you might as well live. So that line, you might as well live, is in that song by Roxy Music. I never knew where that came from. And now I know, and now you know too. My only homework for the week is to continue my morning regimen. So I will be posting my wake-up times with an inspiring or motivational insight or quote, usually a quote on Twitter, in which case you should be following me on Twitter, and I will follow you too. And I will be doing that as part of my morning routine. If you don't have a morning routine, I encourage you to try creating one. But that is my homework for the week, is to continue that process.
That's a very morbid poem.
Oh, yeah, the poem, well, especially Resume.
Yeah.
Why is the title of that Resume?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Dorothy Parker.
That's interesting.
It's got a happy ending.
Cool beans.
You might as well live.
Cool beans. Yep. It's funny. That's funny. Yes. Oh my gosh. And the Way with the Words podcast, they didn't even mention that reference to Cheech and Chong. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Jim says in the chat, I didn't hear Dr. Peikoff's discussion of Keeping It Real. What was the essence, he asks. And then John explains Keeping It Real is the book based on Dr. Peikoff's podcast. And Jim, I would say, I know you like to hear things live. You might not be one for going back and listening to things you missed, but that Friday show was really a hoot.
Yes.
The podcast that we did, the video with James Valliant. So you might give that one a shot. And I think this whole series on the Keeping It Real book, in other words, on the Leonard Peikoff podcast, this is going to be a lot of fun. Because there's stuff in there that is not academic philosophy, and yet the applications are rich and deep, and they extend out to the abstract, but they're also extremely narrow and specific, and great life advice, and you're going to get stories. There's stories of Leonard Peikoff and Ayn Rand, and it's going to be so much fun. So yes, absolutely, it's going to be worth listening to. And Amy has posted a link to the book in the chat if you're interested in that, or just go to peikoff.com. The podcasts are all still there.
Now, before we go, Stephen on YouTube, he asks if we have ever read the book, The Russian Radical.
No, and he mentioned that on Facebook because I guess somebody's asking him or telling him, yeah, you should read The Russian Radical by Chris Sciabara.
There's that one. There's one by Jennifer Burns, and there's one by Anne somebody. And
Anne Heller, yeah. And Chris Sciabara does the kind of thing that Jennifer Burns does, or the kind of thing that Anne Heller does, which is he analyzes Ayn Rand in the context of how she was brought up, what she went through, what she was exposed to. And the problem I have with that is that, well, one of the problems I have with this book is that those kinds of explanations are always reaching, and they're always determinist flavored.
Right.
Oh, well, Ayn Rand was not the genius of the ages. She came up with what she came up with because of what she went through.
Yeah.
As if to suggest that any average schlub who went through what she went through would have achieved the same things.
Or it just kind of played down the her own efforts in her own free will in choosing what she wanted out of life. You can certainly have all sorts of interesting background as a person, but really what it comes down is your choices, and what you choose to focus on and what you choose to have in your life.
I could do the same thing with my life or anybody else. I could certainly explain every one of my successes in terms of, well, the reason why I did so well was this, this, and this.
It's because of Amy.
Because of Amy, obviously. And I could do the same thing, and people are more inclined to do this when they talk about themselves. I could do the same thing with regard to all of my failures. Oh, well, the reason I wasn't a multimillionaire at 25 was this hardship, that hardship, this situation, this explanation of things that happened in high school and things that, et cetera, et cetera. It's something that you do in psychology, is you explain somebody's mindset, you explain their situation, you explain everything in terms of what led them to that point. And you don't focus as much on the decisions they made as you figure out how they got where they are. But then once you know where somebody's at, you say, okay, what are you going to do about it? But a proper analysis of somebody has to include going back to those previous times and saying, well, something got you to this point, and now what are you going to do about it? Every denial of free will has that contradiction built in, that self-exclusion built in. So that's the long answer. The short answer is, I don't know, I haven't read the book. So, sorry, I can't help you too much with that. Actually, I take that back. I can't help you at all with that, but I wouldn't worry too much about it, because I don't think the person who is asking you to read the book needs to be taken all that seriously. I've certainly had people say, well, you should not say anything about, and then whatever the thing was. What would the thing, pick Immanuel Kant, the obvious example. Nobody should criticize Immanuel Kant unless they have read both of the critiques and more. I don't accept that, and there are reasons I don't accept that. It would be an interesting show to do because it would be a long discussion. But it's not the case that unless you know everything about a given context, you know nothing about that context. It's not the case that unless you have studied something inside and out, you need to keep your pie hole shut. No, that is not the case. So yeah, I'm not a fan of Mr. Schiabara, but I'm not a fan
of that approach to
I only know what he's said online. I only know what he has posted. He used to post quite a bit on sites like Rebirth of Reason, the old Perigo websites. I don't even know if those folks are still out there. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to get so long into a side issue there. Yes.
Yeah. It's like saying, hey, you know what, your choices don't really matter, and all the effort that you put forth in life, it doesn't quite matter. It's just kind of like what you stumbled into, and that can be a bit insulting. So. Yeah,
Apollo Zeus writes, I've read all of Kant's works, and I think they are brilliant. And, of course, I know that he's joking. Because I've talked to him before, for example, on Clubhouse, and he appears to be sane still. So, obviously,
he has a laughing face afterwards. So obviously, he's joking.
Now, I have not seen Oklahoma, the musical, the film, since I was young. So I have to check this out. Jim writes, if you like morbidly funny poems, this poem here is obviously morbidly funny. If you like morbidly funny poems or songs, listen to Poor Judd is Dead from the musical Oklahoma. I will do that. I will add that to my to-do list.
I know the old British song, Ain't It Grand to Be Blooming Well Dead.
That's a charming one.
There's a charming one.
Yes, that one's on our Halloween favorites playlist.
Yeah, or the song about Anne Boleyn, with her head tucked underneath her arm. Yes. That's a good one.
With her head tucked underneath our arm. Yes, good stuff. We have posted our favorite Christmas songs. We need to do that with Halloween. Put up a playlist of our favorite Halloween songs.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's only 162 days before Halloween.
162 days to get ready. Have you picked your costume yet? Have you decided on your decoration, your motif for your property? That's important stuff, especially to this one here, our Halloween fan and advocate. So, thank you for joining us for this celebration of post-COVID Amy in a post-pandemic world. Very much appreciated. Great to see some names and faces. I didn't see the faces. I know the faces. Great to see some names in the chat of folks that we haven't seen in a few Sundays. Very much appreciated. Thank you for joining us. Show notes and links for the episode will be posted immediately after the show. If you have suggestions for future topics, stuff we should be talking about, you can post them in the chat or in the 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir Facebook group. If you would like to support the show, we mentioned this earlier, I'm going to mention it again now. Thank you. Thank you to those of you who are already supporting the show. Very much appreciated. A couple new subscribers, is that the right word? Patrons recently. And that really helps us do what we do. If you want to support the show, if you got a pocket full of money, or $1 a month, if you are rich and want to throw all of your wealth at us like Yarn Brooks fans seems to do, I shouldn't mention that. It sounds jealous, but it's just amusing to me. If you want to support the show, robertnasir.com has links to Patreon/Robert Nasir, which allows you to send a couple dollars every month.
Yep.
or paypal.com/Robert Nasir.
I've got that link in there. In
Excellent.
The chats.
Which also lets you send a one-time contribution. And the link is at robertnasir.com. Easiest thing in the world to find. I'm always surprised. I get occasionally somebody will track me down from high school days or, childhood or even young adult. And say, yeah, Robert Nasir, hey, I don't know where I finally found you. And I'm like, everything I do is public. Everything is under my name. If you're looking for me, facebook.com/Robert Nasir, twitter.com/Robert Nasir, especially robertnasir.substack.com. Sign up for my Substack, and you will earn extra love from me. I don't know how I could love you any more than I already do, but that just might do it.
If you go to Ocon, that might happen.
That might happen. We'll hand you the mic, and you can be the star of our karaoke party. But in the meantime, record something. Put your music out there. Put it on Facebook. Put it on Twitter. Put it on Instagram. I've got to catch up on my Instagram. I'm not as good with that one. Anything you do on Facebook, anything you do on Twitter, I'm going to see it. And thank you for being here. Thank you so much for joining us. We wish you every success you have earned, and I know you have earned a lot. We wish you all the happiness that you so richly deserve, and as always,